Hello there and welcome back to the channel. 2026 is 2 months old. We already gave the year a motto. We had a look inside my camera bag and we even went to a classic car event already. And also I've been on a bit of a Star Trek kick lately, but where do we go in 2026? What is on my bucket list for 2026? To answer that question, we have to go back a little into 2018, the before times. 2018, on a Friday night after a pretty horrible week at work, I decided to spontaneously go to the Hockenheimring 2 days later for the final DTM race of the season. In 2019, I made my way to the Nürburgring for the first time. No idea why it took me so long to go there for the first time, but here we are.
Jetzt kommen hier die 620 PS mal 23. Das werde ich überholen und sofort geben auch die Richtung, wenn es das Kommando in die Fahrzeuge weiter. Go, go, go.
The second new racetrack I visited that year was the Lausitzring, which is in the far east of Germany, near the Polish border, and I went there for the DTM race. Starting in 2022, I made it a point to visit at least one new racetrack every year, and 2022 brought me to one of the most legendary ones, this one, and to the Grand Prix d'Historique in Monaco for the first time. The second new racetrack I visited is an equally historic one. It's Spa-Franchorchamps. '23 sent me to at least 3 new racetracks. First off, we went to the dunes in Zandvoort for the historic Grand Prix back then. It was a day trip and it was beautiful weather and the track was amazing. The second track was Zolder in Belgium. It's a small track, it's pretty much the same distance from me as is Spa, and also historic Grand Prix. And then, in September, I went on a little trip down to Italy, to Tuscany, which is a whole story in and of itself, where I actually, in the town of Siena, saw the Gran Premio Nuvolare, which is a classic car rally, arrive in Siena that day. Beautiful weather. You can see some footage here. But on my way back to Germany, I went and visited Monza, the Temple of Speed. To be perfectly honest, it was a tad underwhelming. 2024. Again, 2 new racetracks, one of which is this one and the accompanying event. It's the Goodwood Festival of Speed, legendary classic car event.
Go to bakery department and get some more donuts.
And the second new racetrack was equally legendary. It's Silverstone. Which brings us to 2025, where I visited 2 new racetracks, and both of which were primarily motorcycle tracks. The first one was the Sachsenring in East Germany, where I went to the DTM race. And the second new racetrack I visited last year was also a motorcycle racetrack. It was the Tourist Trophy in Assen, which is in the north of the Netherlands. MotoGP is there every year. It's a huge crowd, but I went there for the historic Grand Prix. And that brings us to 2026 today. Where do we go from here? Where do we go in 2026? Which new racetracks are we going to visit in 2026? There's a whole lot of options all throughout Europe, all throughout the world, which I haven't seen yet. Option number 1 would be Oschersleben. In the middle of Germany, it's pretty much the only full racetrack in Germany I haven't seen yet. And it also hosts the DTM every year. Option number 2 would bring us back to the UK, Brands Hatch. They host a few historic events every year, so that might be an option. It is within a day's drive. It's not a day trip because I have to cross the channel, but it is within a day's drive for me. So a weekend or a long weekend might be the way to go. And option number 3 takes us in the opposite direction of the UK, the Czech Republic. There's a little track called Most, Autodromo de Most, in the north of the Czech Republic, near the German border. And it's also a pretty old racetrack, I believe, and lots of history there. And they host a historic event every year in October. And I wanted to go there last year, but for one reason or another didn't make it. So this racetrack and this event are on the calendar for this year. So these were the new racetracks I'm going to visit this year, or I plan on visiting this year. But there's also quite a few events in Germany and the surrounding countries which I haven't yet visited. Number 1, rally. It's not only the WRC, the Rally Monte Carlo, Sweden, Finland, and all the others, but there's also a lot of smaller and local rallies here in Germany, in the area around the Nürburgring and over the border into Belgium and the Netherlands. So I do plan on picking out one of these events and visiting a rally and photographing that rally. Second event, which is definitely on the calendar this year, is the Truck Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Draws a huge crowd every year. I'm always fascinated how big of a crowd it draws, actually. And I wanted to go ever since I found out about it, but haven't made it yet. But this year, I'm definitely going. Another event I'm going to go to is the Retro Classics in Essen. Of course, there will always be the classic events throughout the year, which is the Oldtimer Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, several classic events in Spa and the Nürburgring, maybe drive down to Hockenheimring for a classic event or two. Then, and this is something completely different, Ultrace. The big main Ultrace event is in Krakow in Poland. I recently found out there will be a satellite event, spin-off event in Germany. Then there's an event called Tief im Wald, Deep in the Woods. This is a car tuning event, and you'll be seeing some really crazy builds there. And also, in general, car meets. There will be lots of car meets around me, and within an hour or 2 hours drive of me, I just need to find out where they are, when they are, and then just go there. So these are the plans for 2026. But what about after 2026? My bucket list is not empty. There's still quite a few racetracks in the world and events in the world which I plan on visiting someday. So here's a non-exhaustive list of the things of the racetracks I want to visit. Obviously, there's a lot of them in North America, starting with Watkins Glen up in the state of New York, Daytona, Indianapolis, Laguna Seca. In Europe, you have Le Mans. And also on the other side of the world. I mentioned earlier that I have been to Australia back in 2008, but back then I didn't manage to go to Bathurst, to the mountain. Then there's racetracks in Japan, Fuji, Suzuka. And there's also more stuff in Europe, like Imola. There are also quite a few events I haven't been to yet. First and foremost, the 24-hour races. The Nürburgring, Spa, the big one in Le Mans, which also has a 24-hour classic race, I think every 2 years, and stuff like Daytona. So I hope that one of these days I can make it to one of these 24-hour races. Other events, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb every year in Pikes Peak in, I think, Colorado. If we're talking more events in the US, Monterey Car Week. Also in the US is an event called Luftgekühlt, which means air-cooled. And it's a Porsche event. It's every year. So far it has been in California, but I think this past year it has been somewhere in North Carolina, I believe, in Durham. And again, the photos coming out of this event are just absolutely stunning. One of my inspirations, idols, whatever you want to call it, Larry Chen, is photographing this event every year. Last year I did a video about his photo book, which also includes photos from Luftgekühlt. You can watch the video up here. I want to go back to Goodwood, obviously. Goodwood Festival of Speed, but Goodwood also has more events, namely the members meeting in, I think, April. And the one I want to go to is the Goodwood Revival in September. And another event in Europe is the Fat Ice Race, which happened in St. Moritz just a few weeks ago. And one more event is on my bucket list, which is the Tokyo Auto Salon in January. One of these days I need to combine a journey to Japan with the visit of the Tokyo Auto Salon. Well, and that concludes my bucket list. Well, it doesn't conclude it because I will always be adding things to it. And there's also quite a few other areas of interest to me outside of motorsport and cars where I have bucket lists, but that's a topic for another video. Let me know in the comments below what's on your bucket list. Which racetrack do you want to go to? Which event do you want to visit which you haven't seen yet? And stay subscribed for plenty more content in 2026, and I'll see you in the next one.